Greetings all. What we're looking at are the mountains of Luzon, the Philippines. They cover the whole island. This whole place is a volcano. Well, the whole Pacific, all of the islands of the Pacific are volcanic. They all sit on this thing they call a ring of fire. Or rather what earth scientists, people who consider themselves to study the earth, call the ring of fire. These people are called Aiba. They are the original blacks people of Asia. Lady and her children. They lost the ability to control their surroundings when the Spanish arrived. The Portuguese and the British moved in and sealed the deal, as I would call it. The last act of the British was to kill everyone in Tasmania. Well, everyone, yeah. The last one was a woman who they put in a cage and people paid to come see her. And now the Caucasians in Australia are fighting over the ownership of that land, Tasmania, because it's filled with all kinds of necessary resources for today's world. And what they call the Aboriginals in Australia, they have been reduced to almost nothing in Australia and New Zealand. Just like the African. The Australian society, New Zealand society, Tasmania, and all of French Polynesia, all built on what was taken from the original people. By the criminals that were sent from Europe to occupy the land. And when I say criminals, they were literal criminals. They emptied the jails and sent them to Asia. Today, these same children of those same criminals consider themselves to be upstanding citizens of the world. Don't forget now that what they learn from their parents. And they still treat the people, original people, the same way that their parents treated the original people. But they consider themselves example of good leadership for the world. When you look at what's the events going on across the planet, you'll find the same thing in the Middle East. The same criminal element relocated from Europe into the Middle East. Joined with the Arab. Well, before that, prior to that, they were joined with the Arab in the slave trade. The trade of African people. Today they're fighting each other. Over the same slave trade. Africa is still at the center of that trade. Anyways, it's about the fight now. What you're seeing is the destruction of a nation, one nation by another. And it's not the destruction that you would think it is. Because you're thinking, well, my Bible says that in the end times, all these wicked nations are going to come against God's people. And in your mind, they are called Jews. But in our book, there's no such thing. And when I say book, I don't mean the Bible or the New Testament. The Bible is the book of the Zionist Nazis. The New Testament is the book of the Christian Zionist Nazis. And there are some people today, African people, who are trying to argue that they are the original Jew. Not looking at what is going on and knowing the history of it. They are using the Bible and the New Testament to gentrify themselves. Exactly what the Jew did to our forefathers. They took our culture from us, changed the names, and now some of us are going back to take their culture, that culture, with the names they gave it, to claim that they are it. When you see evil and you think it's good, that you want to join it, when it gets destroyed, guess who's going to be destroyed with it? And what you're seeing is the destruction of that people. Like I said, you're thinking that your Bible says that the whole world is going to come against these chosen people, and their God is going to kill all the people of the world and leave these few of them to rule over the rest of the world now. Now, if we have these same people that you see ruling that area in charge of the rest of the world, you see what they are doing to the people in the area. In 1 year, 50,000 people died, children. They go into a hospital and blow it up. The doctors treating people killed. The children laying in the hospital killed. And that's the people that you're thinking God's going to put in charge of this planet. Which God are you talking about? If you are an Israelite and you go and call yourself or insert yourself into that, guess what's going to happen when they fall and the judgment begins? You are going to find yourself in the same place where they are being judged. I didn't want to get into this subject because it goes deeper than the way I'm treating it now. There's a time for that. But I'm seeing a lot of foolishness being talked about. This argument, raising up who is a Jew. A Jew is a Jew. The people who call themselves Jews are Jews. Let them alone. You don't understand. Your father told you, let the blind lead the blind. Stay away from them. But you don't want to listen, huh? Anyway, you don't know history. You don't see. They were the reason why the British Empire was destroyed today. Before that, the Greeks, the Romans, the Germans, the French, they brought the British and the French into the Middle East to get them to take over the Suez Canal. And after the British tried that, the British Empire was gone. The French held on because the African treated the French like God and held on to their coattails, sat around their table, murdered each other in the name of France. Until today. It's only Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger that has set the ball rolling for the death of the French. But they began it with this foolishness when they tried to take over the Suez Canal. They were the ones who talked the British and the French into coming into it. And the British established them there for that purpose, to cause havoc. They knew they were going to do it. This is not new. I mean, read the history books, it will tell you about the whole plan. You don't know the history of these people. Did you go back to the Crusades and figure out who was the behind the Crusades? Who financed it? Did you go back to the Crusades and find out why the European went into Palestine? It was about the control of the land. Not just the control of Palestine, but from Turkey all the way to India. This is a project, and these people don't see it. Anyway, like I was saying, now they bring in America. If you listen to Biden, Biden told you already, if Israel didn't exist, if Israel wasn't existent before he became president, he'll have to create Israel. Every American president we were talking about policy the other day, and plenty of these videos, a few of them, yeah. It's U.S. policy. That Israel is U.S. policy, just like it was the British policy, the European policy. Every nation, including the Pope, it's a policy in Europe, period. And in America, as the head, took over the policy. And who gave them the policy? The same people who were driving the war in there. You gotta read history. Those of you who are black-skinned African and want to be Jews, you better pay attention to what's going on. Real attention. Don't open up that Bible and call it yours. Don't preach that Christian part of the Bible and say, this Paul said that and this. Hey, now, who was Paul? An agent. Paul was an agent who went from place to place working for his master, destroying communities and people who were trying to escape the carnage that his master was right all over the place, or what's called it. You just gotta learn the history instead of jumping into this thing. And if you insert yourself into this war, you're not going to be one of those 144 standing, though you believe that you are it. Peace.